Alrighty, well, hello everyone. Welcome to another edition of 1+1, your place for inconvenient truth-telling and myth-busting. On the program, we return to the country island nation of Haiti, which continues to be bullied globally, and its plutocrats continue to engage in crimes against humanity. And on the program, we welcome back to the show Jennie-Laure Sully, a Haitian-Canadian based in Quebec. She is a Haitian leftist and feminist, part of the Haitian solidarity movement and other anti-imperialist activities and social justice activities. And she's also part of a feminist group. Jenny, what's the name of your feminist group?
The short name is CLES. In French, it's Concertation des luttes contre l'exploitation sexuelle. So it's a coalition of organization against sexual exploitation.
Oh, fantastic! And in fact, I even wrote in my notes that the group campaigns against sex works and human trafficking. So I was so good. I was right on the mark. And yes, so let's get started. So first of all, Jenny, it's an honor to have you back on the program.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I'm glad to be back.
Likewise, and there was some breaking news not too long ago over I believe it was over the weekend. Ariel Henry is stepping down. So before we talk about so before I get to my first official question, I have to ask then this question. So Ariel Henry is stepping down. What does that mean, and what do you think his Western backers and his faction of the oligarchy are up to?
Yes, yes. What does that mean? That's the right question to ask, because when we're talking about stepping down, the question is stepping down from what? I mean,
He was supposed to
uh,
step down.
yeah, yeah, he was supposed to step down, but in a sense, he did not have an official position. He was supposedly a prime minister. He was named by the previous president before his assassination. Jovenel
Oh,
Moïse had
exactly.
named him, but then was, assassinated shortly after naming him. There was like this vacuum of power, and people didn't know who would actually either be interim president or head of state of Haiti in a situation where elections hadn't been held for a long time during Jovenel Moïse, while Jovenel Moïse was there. So what ended up happening is that the core group, which is the sort of association, union, I don't know how to call them, of embassies, the Embassy of Canada, France, and United States, and some others also, but these are the three main partners in crime in the core group. So
Exactly.
Canada, France, and
Exactly.
United States. Basically, they published a tweet saying that they recognize Ariel Henry as the prime minister. So that's how he came to be in power. So a lot of people never recognize him, have been saying that he's totally illegitimate in that position. So yeah, now what happened recently is that he said he was resigning, but before coming to that decision, let's say he came to that decision, he was actually coming back from Kenya, where he had signed an agreement with the president of Kenya, William Ruto, for the deployment of Kenyan police officers, Kenyan police troops to Haiti. 1,000 police officers were supposed to go to Haiti. So he had signed that agreement, and he was trying to head back to Haiti. And that's when what the media are calling the gangs decided to go on a rampage. They started shooting in all over Port-au-Prince. They started shooting in the airport. So supposedly it's because the airport was not secure, that there was a safety issue, that he couldn't land. It was not possible for him to land. So he tried to land in the Dominican Republic. and they refused when they could have said yes. I mean, I don't remember what excuse they gave, but the fact that they refused is very interesting. And he ended up landing in Puerto Rico. So all of that
Wow.
is really weird. That shows us that powerful people did not want him to go back to Haiti after he left for Kenya. That's what it means. And the fact that he ended up resigning shows that powerful people wanted him to resign. Okay.
Yeah.
So just to do a summary of what I think of this resignation, I think that it came mainly because he had become an embarrassment for his backers.
Yeah.
He was always named as the reason why the CARICOM, for example, like the community of Caribbean nations, were sort of feeling hesitant to get involved in organizing a mission, an international military intervention to Haiti. Like the United States, Canada, and France wanted to show that it was not just them, involved in this. First, they tried to get the UN involved, the UN Security Council. They were not able to get like a UN-backed intervention. They ended up getting like sort of a green light for a mission that would be international, but not UN-led. Not UN-led. The UN Security
Okay.
Council did not agree to like putting their name on a military intervention. So the United States, being put in that position by the UN Security Council, decided to go and find support wherever it could find, like in Canada, in the Caribbean nations, in African nations, to show that this is still something that looks like a UN mission. It's international. It's not just them pulling the strings. So that's what they set out to do. And every time they would meet, like they had a meeting in Canada with Caribbean nations, the thing that the Caribbean nations would say is, well, we can't really back you in this because Ariel Henry is not the legitimate head of state. We can't go forward. We can't, this thing that you're trying to put together with Kenya or with whoever else, if people like in the Caribbean nations say that we're doing this to keep Ariel Henry in power, it will look bad, basically. And they've been telling them that every time they would meet. And at first, the United States did not want to listen. So what I think happened is that they got to a point where they said, okay, if this is what's preventing us from having this military intervention in Haiti, then Ariel Henry has to go.
That's an interesting segue to the first official question, which I'm going to try to rephrase now, because I was going to give like sort of a big like historical background, but it sounds but my main question was how are the efforts in mobilizing the anti-war, anti-imperialist, and Haitian solidarity movement to stop the powers to be from committing more crimes against Haitian humanity? Because it's very easy to get depressed about Haitian affairs, but I don't know. But it sounds to me from what you're talking about, it's okay. Well, it's not good that we have Haitian elites that can just choose presidents on a whim. It's not good that we have international countries that get to pick and choose who's going to be the oligarch or who's going to be the person running Haitian affairs. But it sounds to me as if because countries seem a little bit more hesitant to do what they normally do in Haiti, which is bully the country, eradicate left movements, and eradicate popular movements against unpopular presidents, as if I guess the Haitian anti-imperialist movement, both in Haiti and internationally, is doing a good job at trying to Stop more crimes against humanity coming out? I'm curious your response to that.
I would say that what happened is there was really a good job being done for several years, like 2017, 2018, 2019, for like at least a good 3 years before the pandemic of organizing to change the system in Haiti. And it was coming from Haiti. There were a group of people that called themselves the Petro Challengers. They were challenging the fact that money that had been, like a financial agreement that had been signed with Venezuela to help in social development was there was basically a sort of gaspillage of like that money was squandered. They really, the government wasted that money. So it was a
Yes, I remember. That was when Chavez. That was when Chavez was alive. Maduro continued it, where he would basically sell Venezuelan oil, but at very cheap prices, to countries like Haiti.
exactly. So it was all a financial agreement that actually allowed several countries in the region to actually invest in social projects. That's what many of the countries who were involved with Chavez and then Maduro in that agreement ended up doing. In Haiti, the situation was that after the earthquake, there were some fraudulent elections that got Michel Martelly elected as president, and then Jovenel Moïse followed up after that. So these were fraudulent elections that were paid for, unfortunately, with my taxes. I know that Canadian taxes helped organize those those elections that were really jokes, with the really little participation and the ballot stuffing and all sorts of irregularities. And this has been documented. We know that these were fake elections and that Martelly was basically selected by Hillary Clinton. And then, this is what led us to have the PHTK. And when Martelly agreed to leave, he agreed to leave and have Jovenel Moïse, but his intention was to come back after Jovenel Moïse's term because he couldn't do 2 consecutive terms according to the Constitution, blah, blah, blah. So basically, the movement that started that was asking about the funds, where are the Petro-Caribe funds? It was a movement against corruption. And this was something new in Haiti. And there were a lot of young people organizing, a lot of people from the rural areas, as well as in Port-au-Prince. The
Urban
feminist
centers, yeah.
movement was involved. So it was a very large movement. And it was a movement that said what they were saying is they were against corruption. They wanted to change the system. They didn't just want another selected puppet. They were saying they're against imperialism. They were questioning why Canada, why the core group, why was all of this in place. So it was anti-imperialist, definitely anti-imperialist. And I think that the imperialists got scared at some point. Their movement was so efficient that Jovenel Moïse decided to repress it violently. And the oligarchs also didn't like what they were seeing, because they can always deal with, okay, we don't want Jovenel Moïse. Okay, they don't want Jovenel Moïse. Let's give them someone else. But that was not what people were asking. People weren't just saying we want someone else. They were saying we want those who wasted funds to be judged. We know who they are. They started doing like investigations. There were journalists keeping track of the contracts and publishing it on social media. There was really this huge movement, and the diaspora got involved in all of this and getting the information together. And the idea was all those who were involved in corruption eventually needed to be arrested, to be judged, and the system had to be changed, fundamentally changed. And all the hope that was created up until 2019, and I would say even uh, up until almost the pandemic, all that was crushed by the fact that they started arming the so-called gangs.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay.
Those gangs started shooting in the neighborhoods that were best organized, the neighborhoods that were planning the protests. And they got everyone to stay home because it became too dangerous to protest, basically. And also they those gangs, the idea of getting them to be on the streets and to sort of control certain neighborhoods was to also in to in the prospect of eventually having elections where those people who would vote against the PHTK would be too afraid to go out and vote. So that was what was going on. And this is not new in
Wow.
Haiti's history. This is something that was done before, you know, to scare people, like the Duvalier had done it also, to scare people into submission, to prevent protests from happening by having armed militias in the streets, uh, shooting around and killing people, burning their houses, raping women, you know, and that's what the oligarchs wanted. And the embassies knew about this. They knew about this and they decided to go along. Some are saying that they're even financing certain people, that the CIA is involved. I don't have the proof for all of that, but this is something that's being repeated.
Well, of course, if you were a betting person, if you're a betting person, come on, like the CIA has to be involved in it. Canada has to be involved in it through either directly or through their front groups or through their friends in the semi NGO world and whatnot, right?
So yes, there's a good chance of that. And in the past, there were documents that prove that CIA were involved with groups such as FRAP, which was a group that was terrorizing people. Uh, eh, uh, I think it was in the 80s, if I remember correctly, in the 80s up until the 90s. So FRAPH. And today we're hearing about barbecue, and we're hearing about Izo and all those gang leaders. But back in the days, it was Toto Constant. And, you know, this is something that has been used, like having militias, armed militias, terrorize people and stop them from protesting and from organizing. This is not something new in Haiti's history. So we need to keep that in mind when we're listening to the media and they're talking about barbecue like some kind of new phenomena, or the other gang leaders like something new. No, this has been done before. The oligarchs have done it before, and they've had partners in the political class, and they've had partners in the foreign embassies helping them do that. And one thing we need to keep in mind is that there are no weapons manufacturing in Haiti. So the weapons are coming from the United States. Some of them are coming from the Dominican Republic, but the main, like more than 85% are coming from the United States.
And but that means then that when okay, so when somebody like me is talking to somebody, you know, about Haiti, that means that journalists, you know, in Canada and France, internationally, they should be present. Actually, wait, no. Let me switch my question around a bit because a lot of people have said that what's going on in Haiti, the whole idea of gang violence, that it's not really gang violence. That what we have is a kind of a civil war going on between the Haitian oligarchy. How do you respond to that? Because it sounds to me as if there is a little bit of that going on, while there is the kind of violence that comes with just daily chronic poverty, right? Or
Yeah, I would call it a power struggle. When we talk about a civil war, I personally think about like a region of a country is in conflict with another region of the country, or large groups of citizens of a country want to kill the other group. That's not what's really happening in Haiti. You don't have large groups of people who are saying, oh, we hate everyone in Port-au-Prince and they should all die. And it's not what's happening in Haiti. You know, when
okay,
you
yeah,
think of
yeah,
Rwanda, for example, Rwanda, you had the Houthis and the Tutsis who
yeah,
hated each other. We don't have a situation like that in Haiti. We have armed militias or paramilitaries, you can call them that control neighborhoods. And if you go through their controlled neighborhoods, they might hurt you. So that's what we have. And the attacks of those um, armed gangs or militias, because I don't want to use the word gang, I don't think it's
exactly.
really depicting the reality. Those armed militias, when they attack, it's always I mean, the poor neighborhoods are targeted. Neighborhoods where you used to have a lot of protests are targeted. So that's weird to me, you know? It's when you really look at what they're doing, they are not attacking the oligarchy. They're not. So it's hard to say that this is really um I think it's really targeted towards poor neighborhoods. So this is some sort of control on the Haitian population. This is terrorism. I would call it terrorism.
State terrorism, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. State terrorism towards the Haitian population to better control it. That's what's going on.
Then in that case, then is it safe to say that Ariel Henry, who's now resigning, but not out of his own, not of his own, not of the kindness of his heart, that Ariel Henry, Jovenel Moise before him, and whomever was the leader after the coup against the real popular democratically elected Jean Bertrand Aristide, when okay, so what the policies they advocate don't help out the majority of Haitian people. They help out they help out a certain faction of the oligarchy and international capitalism and so forth. But just like but just like a Mobutu over here or a Viktor Yanukovych in the Ukraine or any leader, particularly right-leaning leaders that the international community has propped up, when they start to step out of line, like Noriega or Saddam Hussein, that's when you start to hear news coverage of lawlessness, Haitian, Haitian sovereignty is breaking down, law and order is breaking down, and because of this unpopular guy, and of course that's where the weaponization of half truths come in. That's why he needs to be ousted, and us, the international world, needs to intervene in Haitian affairs and put some order in it. But really, when the international community does that, that's to basically like stop all the violence. Of course, they're going to use a lot of violence to stop all of the violence to find the next puppet that they want to keep Haitian the poor majority in line and keep the dodgy world of capitalism alive and well.
Absolutely.
Is that how we should be understanding what's
Yes.
going on in Haiti
Yes,
currently?
yes, yes. They're creating chaos, and then they're saying there's all this mayhem, there's all this disorder going on, there's chaos, but they played a role in creating that, and they know that, and
Yep.
then they are presenting themselves as the one who will bring the solution. They create a problem, and then they propose a solution to the problem that they themselves created. And the solution really isn't a solution. It is just a way to maintain their control on the situation. And some people are so desperate for any type of solution, and they know that, you know, in the first, probably in the first few months, there will be some sort of stability if there's some sort of intervention. I mean, when the minister first arrived, some people made money, there was a certain stability, but very quickly the scandals started, the sexual scandals, you know, people getting executed, poor neighborhoods being targeted. So the Haitians know, because the minister lasted for 17 years, if I'm not mistaken, like several
Yeah.
years. Yeah,
2004 all the way up until I
yeah,
think until the I think the end of like the Harper years after the earthquake or something
yeah,
like that.
something like that. Yeah. Well, maybe it's a little less because afterwards they changed the name. So, anyways, over a decade plus, we still have a UN presence in Haiti right now. So what is going on is also, if we're going to talk about failure and chaos, it's also the result of that UN office in Haiti. There's the BNU, which is the Bureau International des Nations Unies en Haïti. So it's a UN office in Haiti that has been there for years. It's been there before all this chaos broke out. And so it's also on them, and people are not saying that. Like, people should be asking, well, what's wrong with the BNU? How could they not do something to prevent this situation? No one is asking that. No one is asking that. So
There's
that's
already
interesting.
there is already like a UN mission there. Ergo, why does there need to be another armed United Nations group? Which what was the thing that Dr. Jemima Pierce said, where they have this article that says that the UN peacekeeping forces can use lethal force, right? In
Yes,
other words,
that's
shoot
it.
people. And
That's it. Yeah, that's what they're looking at. They're saying that one of the ways to solve Haiti's problem is to kill some of the Haitians, you know? So so that's basically it. So yeah, it's a lot of hypocrisy, a lot of racism in how Haitians are portrayed, a refusal to look at the root causes of why we're saying what we're saying. Also a tendency to go to easy narrative or narratives that one might like the idea that you know, this is a revolution, barbecue is a revolutionary. Now, Guy Philippe,
I was hoping you weren't going to bring that up because I know there's divisions between
yes,
Haitian leftists and folks in the solidarity community over that. But anywho, go right ahead, and if they want to have a
yes,
fight, they
yes,
can.
yes. So people are saying like barbecue is some sort of revolutionary, but he's really a corrupt ex-cop that is trying to how do you say that, wash his reputation? How do you know,
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
trying to
trying to whitewash his reputation. Once upon a time, I was an
exactly.
evil person, but now I am Aristide with a gun, and I want to help out the left.
Exactly. That's how he's trying to portray himself. And I would understand why that narrative is as, you know, attractive, and as it would be nice if it could be true. But honestly, there's too much video evidence circulating of things he's said in the past, of things he's done while he was in the police, of testimony from his victims, and you have to understand Creole to look at all that information and find it. A lot of people who want to believe that, you know, he's a good guy are saying he was smeared by this organization, which is the RNDDH, which is indeed, this is a humanitarian, human rights watch organization that have lied in the past about Aristide, about, you know, so I would understand why people would go, oh, RNDDH is saying that this is a bad guy, so I think it's a good guy. So, you know, I understand like the tendency to think that way. But there's so many other factors that point to the fact that he was involved in massacres. It's not just the RNDDH saying that. It's actually a lot of audio evidence, a lot of video evidence. There are, images of him when he was distributing, I would say, like bribes with the police in certain areas. Like, what kind of revolutionary goes around in poor neighborhoods bribing people with the police? The police was with him. And I thought he was like, criticizing the corrupt police. Then why do you go around like distributing money, food with the police with you? That's bribing people. That's what he was doing in poor neighborhoods, and there's like video evidence of that. So other videos where he said that he didn't want people to go out and protest. That's on YouTube. So there's
And
a
that was
lot.
and that was when there was many people marching against Moise, right?
Exactly, exactly. So he's done a lot of contradictory things. He said, so he seemed to be protecting Moise at some time, at certain times, and then he seemed to be against him. So it was all depending on what was happening politically, that he seemed to be shifting. And that proves that the oligarchs in Haiti are sort of in a power struggle. And so, yeah, he would go on one side or the other, depending on what was going on in that struggle between the oligarchs. So that's what we need to understand with Jimmy Cherizier and with all the other gang leaders right now. Depending on who will provide them with weapons, with some sort of protection against being prosecuted, against being arrested, that's who they will be fighting for, not for the Haitian population.
That's a perfect segue to this question, which is, before we talk about the anniversary of the 2004 coup against Aristide, your thoughts on, I can't believe this, so your thoughts on Lula and other left-leaning heads of states like Alamo in Mexico. Lula, of course, is the president of Brazil, and others, and other left-leaning heads of states once again joining a coalition of the willing criminals to advance American, Canuck, French, and pan-European imperialism in your country. Yeah.
Yeah. We're not surprised. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Haiti does not have friends. It's too easy in the region for people to look at financial interests, to look at political interests before looking out for the interests of a country like Haiti. So that's basically what's going on. I'm not surprised. So it's the same thing as before, whether it's Lula or even the heads of states of the CARICOM or all the others in the region, with one exception, Maduro in Venezuela, who met at this meeting of I think it's the CELAC,
Yeah.
the organization, and he clearly said that it's enough. We need to take a stand against any military intervention in Haiti. He said that. So I could say that Maduro and Venezuela and Cuba, these are the friends of Haiti, the real friends of Haiti. But very often, even them are being stopped from really helping out Haiti because of other stuff that's going on in the region. So to the extent that they can, they are showing true solidarity with Haiti.
But what about Nicaragua under the Sandinista government of Daniel Ortega? Haven't they been a good friend to Haiti, at least on the diplomatic level? Or
I wouldn't say that. I don't think that they up until now they didn't seem to be interested, that interested. I would put it more like that. And the true friends of Haiti would be more like Venezuela and Cuba. I think Nicaragua has a lot to deal with. They're also being very targeted, and
Yeah.
yeah, they have a lot to deal with right now.
That said, before we yeah, let's get into the anniversary. I just want to say that I just find it shocking that that Lula can do this because he is more or less the one leading the other, particularly the left-leaning countries in Latin America to do this, and I just find it shocking because it really because it's that old saying, fool me once, shame on, you'll fool me twice, but it really is shame, just yeah, shame on
Yeah.
him, and I'll just leave it at that. And it's up to the left-wing movements there, if they give a shit about Haiti, and they should give a shit about Haiti to put him into account. But
Yes, definitely, definitely.
and and now let's talk about the anniversary of the infinite evil coup and reign of terror that was the 2004 coup against the, and I have to emphasize this, democratically elected, popularly elected social democratic president Jean-Bertrand Aristide. And we know the intense, multifaceted propaganda and smears and slander, fake news, fake human rights concerns from NGOs, semi NGOs, and the CIA, Canadian, French front groups in demonizing Aristide, in normalizing the slaughter and suppression of his supporters. And your reflections on that, but I think it's more important to also talk about, given that we just talked about, Brazil under Lula, Mexico under AMLO, participating in the crimes against humanity in Haiti, and uh, so can you talk to us a bit about the history of Haiti being demonized in the way that the Jewish people used to be demonized, the way the Roma people across Europe still are demonized, and the way, of course, that Trump and MAGA Republicans and Democrats talk about Latin American illegal immigrants, particularly Mexico, because I find that's quite fascinating, the history of demonizing Haitians and then normalizing the unthinkable, which is the suppression of their democracy and their people power movements.
Yes, yes. The 20-year of the coup is something that we at Solidarité Québec Haïti thought was very important to com commemorate, to remember and to make sure to do an action, a political action. So we were in Ottawa with some activist friends, with comrades, and basically we had this event in front of the Ottawa Parliament to against once again denounce the role that was played by Canada in that coup. They got rid not only of Aristide, but also 7,000 elected officials at that time. They participated in a military operation against Haiti, and the whole idea was to prevent Haiti from actually celebrating its 200 years of independence. So yeah, it goes back to a long history. So it is about demonizing Haiti as, this nation that was able to defeat the slavery system. And instead of letting the democratically elected president celebrate that 200-year, and the fact that he had asked for reparations, also like the money that was actually stolen by France from Haiti, like stolen, like they charge Haiti for basically winning. The winners had to pay those who lost the war as an indemnity. So basically, Jean-Bertrand Aristide was removed because he was asking for those billions of dollars in reparations. and because he was going to do that big celebration, 200 year of, the overthrow of the slavery system. That's what it was about. And yes, there is a demonization. The idea is to keep telling the world that, you see, those Black people just can't govern themselves. And that's really the narrative. They're saying gangs are running around in the streets, and I'm not saying there's no insecurity, but the way they're portraying it without giving any context, without talking about where the weapons are coming from, without, explaining all the impoverishment that they've created over the years and years in that country, and the all the fact that it's generational wealth that was extracted from Haiti. Not and we talk a lot about the French that owe billions of dollars to Haiti, but let's not forget that the United States, when they invaded Haiti in 1915, stole Haiti's gold. The reserves of the national banks were stolen by the Marines and transferred to New York. So this is a country that was impoverished. And when you create that sort of impoverishment, no one should be surprised that you're destabilizing people, that you're creating the conditions for insecurity to become the norm, to become something that is widespread. And plus, you have those weapons that are circulating, and that those families receive in their private ports, and that are distributed throughout the country. So uh, it's no surprise what's happening. It's not about Black people not being able to govern themselves. It's not about Haitians being more savages or more more violent than others in the world. That's not what it's about. And that's how the media is portraying the situation in Haiti.
Yeah, and I find it I find it just shocking that that you can get over 2 million or so people, in Montreal, in New York, in London, or anywhere and everywhere to be protesting against the Iraq War when uh, when Saddam Hussein was a very was a brutal dictator. So you can get people to be protesting in the streets for that. You can even get anti-communist leftists to be protesting against the unjust Vietnam War, and yet Haiti, hardly anybody protested against what was clearly a a Latin American leftist government which was being overturned. I still find that quite shocking. And my final question actually is going to be about that. But I wanted to ask, given this history of Haiti being demonized, and this very unique form of racism that Haitians are subjected to, uh, talk to us about how talk to us a bit more about that, like voodoo and the kind of demonization the Haitian revolutionaries were subjected to, in which you had the Enlightenment French and other Europeans. You call them white liberals, call them white leftist socialists at the time. What they said about Haiti when Haiti was overthrowing, French colonialism, because I find that quite fascinating as well.
Yes, yes. Basically, they started spreading a lot of lies about the voodoo, and they started saying that, the only thing that can explain that Napoleon's army was defeated is that these people worship the devil, is that these people were, organizing in the mountains and doing all sort of satanic rituals. And that's how the bad press of voodoo started.
What?
And they started saying that, those people, they do human sacrifices. That's what voodoo is about human sacrifices. That's where they're getting their ability to fight us, the French, the great Napoleon army. So the French started with that narrative of voodoo being this malevolent, like malefic
Yeah,
force,
black
and
magic, like sorcery, and
yes, yes. They had to find some sort of excuse for their awful defeat. It was really a defeat. So that's how it started. And then when the Americans invaded, they wanted to make sure that all the crimes that they had committed, because when they got to Haiti in 1915, there was an uprising, and it was a popular uprising. A lot of peasants who were eventually organized by this guy called Charlemagne Perrault to try to resist and to fight back against the Marines. And it was a massacre. It was really like dead bodies all over the place, and there were journalists from all over the world who were, who could document what was going on. And very quickly, the Americans realized that it was important to show that they were fighting savages. They were fighting those satanic or voodoo worshiping people who were so dangerous that they had to be, very fierce, and they couldn't take the risk of not killing them, basically. So the whole idea of voodoo being that incredibly dangerous, and something that had to do with the devil. It was reinforced with the Americans, and then Hollywood got into the action, and they started with all those stories and movies eventually. So
of
that was
like
it.
of like the whole like voodoo dolls. So you want to curse
Yes.
somebody, and then like if you stab the person like right there, then the person is gonna.
Yes, they started amplifying those sorts of stories. Now, when you look at voodoo, I know that like in any country, you have people who can be what we call charlatans. That can use voodoo and do things to be like to give themselves a certain social power. So there is that. I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but that's something you will find anywhere where you have a spiritual um, uh, a religion or any spiritual ideology. You will find charlatans in those ideologies all over the world. And so that
Oh
exists in
yes,
Haiti.
yes. I know that for a fact. In Africa, my mom comes from the Congo, and there's yeah, you do have those kind of evil grifters, but at the same time, if people can, if people can be, how should I say, uh, like you'll have people who will defend African culture from being overly demonized by the Western world. You'll have people from Latin America, those who are descendants of like Aztecs and Mayans, who will all say, "Hey, we weren't all just a bunch of uh, cannibal eating, human sacrificing,
That's
backwards
it.
like
That's
tribe
it.
people, noble savages, and so forth." Like there was way more to our civilization than that.
Exactly.
So is that how we
Exactly.
should understand? Well, yeah, is that how we should understand anything that comes from like Haitian culture?
Yes, yes, I think we should look at the culture in its global, globally. We should look at how the spiritual the spiritual the ideology, the spirituality helped the slaves survive. That's something that should not be minimized. And uh, this is part of Haitian culture. It is not something to be ashamed of. It is not something that we should look at with westernized. It's not something to be demonized. I personally, I'm a very how should I say this? Very rational and very I've studied science and stuff like that, and so I have a tendency to not be very spiritual compared to others of my friends, but I have a respect for
Yeah.
that spirituality helped to do in our fight against slavery, and I think it's a very important, and I know it's part of my culture. And yes, even though I'm like agnostic and more of a rational type, rationality and mathematics and all stuff like that, and science and all that, I think it's important to recognize the cultural importance of that, and to speak against the demonization.
Before I get to my last two questions, then I actually do then an interesting follow-up question I wanted to ask them about Haiti. So is that so during the time of like the French Revolution and all of these like constant upheavals that was happening in France and all of these I guess they were people influenced by the French Revolution, the more radical wing that did what's known as the Reign of Terror. I think they were called the Jacobins or something like
Yes.
that. So did all of those and that was the left at the time or liberalism at the time. And so did a lot of those white liberals, white leftists at the time weren't all of them very racist towards like Haiti and actually supported any kind of imperial measures that was being inflicted on Haiti when the Haitian Revolution happened?
Yeah, it's an interesting question you're asking, because
And that's people like Voltaire, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and then even like the Jacobins who launched the Reign of Terror in France against those who were yeah.
yeah, yeah, I know. I think that a lot of those uh, I don't know if we should call them do they have links to the Enlightenment? I don't know.
Actually, exactly. The
Yeah.
Enlightenment.
Yeah, a lot of them were racist. It's true. When we look at what they've written, what they've said, I think there were a lot of contradictions. They were living in an during the time when slavery was normal. It was all over the world. That was the system, and they benefited from it. So it's hard, I guess, to have enough of a conscience to really to really be against a system that you benefit from. There are some exceptions. I'm thinking in the United States, John Brown, who was really like this white abolitionist who ended up being executed,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
for his really principled stance against slavery. But I think when you look at the history of abolitionists, those who wanted to abolish slavery, you see that there's a lot of contradictions. And I think you're right. It started with the French that were talking about liberté, égalité, fraternité, but not really for everyone, you know. They never finish it, the sentence.
Yeah.
So that was how they were thinking. They were full of contradictions. And in Haiti, there was this guy. Um, I don't remember the exact year, but before the Toussaint Louverture started doing all those winning all those battles, he was sent to Haiti to see what he could do with the French plantation owners, and how it could, do something about the situation. But he was like in the idea that we do need to abolish slavery. So his name was Sontonax, and he is cited in French history as this great abolitionist. But when you look at what he wanted, what he meant by abolishing slavery is that he wanted to have like a period where there would be a better slavery. Like he was saying, like the slaves would eventually have to start, going back to the plantations, but the system would be changed. Sort of a reformist. He was sort of a reformist of slavery when you look at what he was writing. But if you just have the version of the French version of what happened, it was this great abolitionist against slavery. So yeah, you always need to dig deeper in the history and have other versions, not just the official version from the French, to see what these so-called progressives of the time were really thinking.
In fact, and I promise I'll get to this second to last question, then the last question. But in fact, I find it also fascinating. And now, when the Haitian Revolution happened, was it were they were the Haitians much more anti-sexist and feminist compared to the ones compared to the French revolutionaries who in which when they talked about liberté, égalité, fraternité, it was only for the men. It wasn't for the French women. Even though that's kind of ironic, given that some of the early protests against the ancien regime were women, just like some of the early protests against the Tsarist regime in Russia, where where women. So in Haiti, were they feminist as well, or yeah, your response.
If I look at the uprisings and how the role of women, like in the maroon societies, like those who would flee the plantation and go up in the mountains and form those completely independent societies among themselves in the mountain, the role of women was really, really important. And you have a lot of maroon women, and it was not just in Haiti, it was in the other islands also. If you look at the history of the Caribbeans and Latin America, like the maroon societies, you had a lot of women who helped to keep those societies together, to keep them in the struggle, in the resistance. And that was a big, big part of it. So in Haiti, yes, you have all those lines of women, Toya, Fatima, all those women who were really respected and were central to the struggle. And I think that's recognized in the history also. But then again, when the history is being written and what we get from the history, we still have a male-centered history. Like
Mm-hmm.
for me to find out about the warrior women, to find out about the women who made those maroon societies work, who were involved in the revolution with Toussaint Louverture, with Dessalines, to find out about all that history. I had to really dig and go and get that information. So you have a lot of historians, Haitian historians, that don't tell that history. So is it because they weren't back when those women were involved, they weren't recognized by the men of their time? Or is it because the men who are historians today are not interested in those stories? So, to answer your question, were they more feminist? I don't know. Is it because the historians of today are not interested, in those feminist stories that we don't hear about it? So that's the question.
Fascinating. I believe in the U.S. we also have that same problem of not recognizing enough the role of women in the Black Panther Party. Our Latino brothers and sisters and non-binary folks also have that same problem when talking about
Exactly.
the Young Lords and similar Latinx left movements. So that's quite fast. So yeah, I find that fascinating. Then
Mm.
my second to last question that I have to ask is this doesn't get explored enough, and I think it should be explored more, which is the long and sordid history of the Dominican Republic, the neighbor of Haiti, and the history of governments there, whether they're far right, whether they're left leaning heads of states, engaging in extreme xenophobia and persecution of Haitian refugees, Haitian immigrants, and people who are Haitian, but they are Dominican. They're Haitian Dominican. And what do you think it's going to take for leftists in the DR to stop this senseless, atrocious, and grotesque racism that that Haitians, including Haitian Dominicans, constantly face in the Dominican Republic?
Yes, yes. It started with Trujillo. He who wanted to be white, he would powder his face to look whiter. I don't know if you know about the story of Trujillo,
Wait,
which
wait, wait,
was a
wait.
big.
Trujillo was
It was
no,
the
wait,
president of the DR. When was that? In the
but
nine.
he wasn't the military dictator, or was he?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Trujillo.
The military dictator Trujillo. Yeah, okay, yes.
Yes, yes. And it's a it's part of his history. He used to have white powder and powder his face to try to look whiter. Yes, yes. Look it up.
Wow.
Yes. So yes, I think it comes from the fact that the Americans really created that white supremacist system where they would deal with parts of the population in the Dominican Republic and in Haiti with those who looked white. And they would give them all sorts of benefits, contracts, access to economic markets and stuff like that. And they really, really manage to make the whole island, and I really include Haiti in that, white supremacist. People really, that ideology has been like really, really, it took
Hardwired.
hold. Yeah, they managed, it worked. They did like, I think one thing I like to say is that Haitians managed to end physical slavery, and then the Americans, when they came and occupied Haiti, and then they later occupied the DR, by the way, a lot of people don't talk about that. They managed to put in place a mental slavery. And
Mm.
once that mental slavery was really well, ancré, I'm losing my English today. When they knew that it was solid, that mental slavery, they said they could leave. So they left in 1934. They were there from 1915 to 1934. I'm forgetting the years for the Dominican Republic, but eventually they left because they knew they were still there. First of all, in the minds of those that they had put in charge, they knew that they had control of their way of thinking, their way of doing things. They knew that they had built really strong ties with the oligarchy. They knew that even the poor people were admiring them. They left, and they knew that, like in the rural areas, in the people wanted to be like the Americans, and one of the objectives of poor young men was to be in the army that the US had trained. That was like their objective in life. And
Unbelievable.
so they left when they knew they had the ideological control on top of also economic control and all of that. So it was neo-colonialism that was put in place, because we keep talking about colonialism after the American occupation. Neo-colonialism
Colonialism.
took over, and it's what we're still dealing with now. When we're talking about what happened in 2004, it was a neo-colonial coup. We need to call it that. And ultimately, what the US wants is to maintain some sort of slavery system, whether it's mental or physical, in Haiti. That's their goal.
But what do you think it's but what do you think it's going to take for the for the Dominicans, those who call themselves leftists, to stop participating in this yeah, against this against the racism of Haiti.
Yeah, that was your question. I forgot. I got all over
No,
the
it's
place.
okay. No, it's all right. It's all right.
Yeah. I think that the left in the Dominican Republic is organizing. I did see them also involved in the anti-corruption movement. I think that's where Haiti and the Dominican Republic could find common ground. Everyone is fed up with corruption. Everyone wants really to get to a point where you don't have so much exclusion of a large parts of the population. So I think if they focus on the anti-corruption part of it, and also, you know what's gonna help? I think that in on both sides of the island, people are a lot more aware about environmental issues. This is another area where they could join forces because there are areas in the Dominican Republic that have been completely, like, the soil has been destroyed and there's no way they'll be able to do agriculture because of those big mining companies in the DR. So I know that the plan is eventually to do a lot of more exploration, mining exploration in Haiti, and they've already done it in the Dominican Republic. So people know that they will poison the water, that so the Dominican Republic already knows this because they've been through it. And this is the plan for Haiti also eventually. So I think those people could join forces with Haiti to prevent that from happening. And yeah, the socialists on both sides need to join forces, and I think it will happen.
And I think that's a perfect segue to sort of my final broad question, which is what's it going to take for the kind of solidarity that we see for Palestine right now, or that Iraq got before the second invasion, and what Vietnam got? What will it take? What will it take? To have that kind of a movement, the global anti-war, anti-imperialist, anti-black racism, and pro-indigenous movement to show more urgent solidarity to Haiti. And because we didn't get the chance to talk on International Women's Day, which is why I sneaked in that that question about feminism, I have a poster of like John Lennon, in the back, and one of his protest song was that "Woman is the nigger of the world." That was like one of his big like
Oh, I
feminist.
didn't know that.
Yeah. That was one of his big feminist songs, and it's kind of funny because in the lyrics he goes, "Women are the slaves of the slaves," and for me that perfectly describes the sort of unique racism indigenous people in Turtle Island in Australia and the Sami people face, as well as the Roma people of Europe. It's a very unique racism. Just like Haiti, the racism against Haiti is very unique in that even leftists, even leftist heads of states, even Caribbean countries, doesn't matter whether they're center left or right or in the middle, all engage in this grotesque, racism against Haiti. So I'm curious. Yeah. So what do you think it's going to take for that to stop in Haiti to get the kind of solidarity it deserves, like what we see with Palestine and the other countries I mentioned.
I don't know if we can compare the eventual, like, I don't think the solidarity that we're seeing for Palestine is something that was, it's not something that was built up. It is something that came to be because the imperialists, the US imperialists, the Zionists, um, are letting people see them for who they truly are. And this has shocked the world. So what we're seeing now with that solidarity for Palestine is something out of the ordinary. And I don't think that it could have been organized, it could have been built up, intentionally. I think this is a sort of solidarity that comes out of incredible shock and people seeing those imperialists for who they truly are. I mean, the masks are off. We're seeing those
No,
images.
that's in fact, sorry to interrupt, but in fact, no, in fact, that is very true because I remember once I was on there was an online event of No New Cold War, and I asked a similar question, like why don't we see the kind of protests against NATO and against the pivot to Asia like what we saw with Vietnam or the Second Iraq War? And all of the answers were very good, but the one British male comrade, he said something interesting. He said that the protests against Vietnam and the protests against the second invasion of Iraq, those were unique moments in history, just like the kind of protests we saw in the First World
Exactly.
War. Those were exceptions to the rules. Yeah, so I
Yeah.
think it's quite interesting what you were saying about
I
Palestine.
think what we're seeing now with Palestine is exceptional. I think it really is something that happens because, you know, people are seeing a genocide in real time on TikTok. Can you imagine? I mean, young people are sharing this. This is why they want to ban TikTok now.
Exactly.
You know? And people are seeing this, and that this is being shared not just on TikTok, on Twitter, on, you know, and people are getting the information, even though the propaganda is off the roof, even though they're doing everything to keep the disinformation going. People are getting the truth. They're getting to the truth anyways. I mean, I've spoken to people who are not like me. I'm a political junkie. I'm always interested in what's going on. And speaking to people who don't know anything about any political issue, but they
Yeah,
know what's going on
yeah.
inside.
Stay with me. Stay with me. Stay with me. Yeah. That's
So yeah, this is exceptional. So that's why we're seeing that solidarity. And honestly, I really hope it helps. I think the ceasefire, we need that ceasefire now. I'm really, you know, what's going on with Palestine. I think a lot of people are really affected by it. So I think that's why we're seeing that. We're not seeing it with other struggles. You know, history, yeah, unique moments in history can't be created. But for Haiti, I think we need to work on solidarity. I think it's possible. We won't have the type what we're seeing with Palestine, but definitely we need to have Pan-Africanism. A lot of Haitians are looking out and looking at what's going on in Africa and building those ties. That needs to be done. The regional, you know, Caribbean and Latin American solidarity needs to be solidified. We already have a few things going on. There's a lot of Haitians that are in contact with Via Campesina, which is an important organization in Latin America. So that's happening. There is stuff happening, you know, the media won't tell you about it. So I'm finding out about it. So
and left leaning media can also sometimes can forget to report on it, and we tend to sometimes be too pessimistic.
exactly. So that is going on. You know, I've seen it. I've talked to the people who are making those connections. It is going on, and we have to keep doing that work. You know, in French we say la lutte continue. The struggle continues, and yeah, and I can say like, looking at the past 20 years, people are getting smarter about their organizing. A lot of people are starting to understand that this is about creating international solidarity with Haiti. I mean, certain people, activists, Haitian activists used to think that they could manage to get rid of US imperialism without help. And I think now everyone is realistic about it. We do need international solidarity. And so people are more serious about building that.
Fantastic. Well, I think let's end on that optimistic note. Well, we were joined on this edition of One Plus One, our all things Latin America special, our all things Haiti special, all things Make Me Want to Holler, which is all about the Black diaspora in Canada, Britain, the U.S., and elsewhere, with Jennie-Laure Sully. And of course, this is also our All Things Canada special because Canada plays a role in these reactionary politics. And we were joined with Jennie-Laure Sully, a Haitian-Canadian feminist leftist activist, organizer, journalist, media and NGO critic, and more. I will make sure to post the relevant links and work in which people can check out your work and other topics related to Haiti. And in the future, I look forward to having you back on to talk about the issue of prostitution, why you as a feminist are opposed to legalizing it. But until then, we were joined this edition of One Plus One. Jenny, thank you so much for joining us again. I hope to speak to you soon, and all my best. And Haiti Liberté, Haiti rise up, and power to the people. And let's hope that the Haiti once again is able to overthrow the multi-colonialists.
Yes, we shall overcome. Thank you.
Thank you.